I'm Yanis Yanguar, and in this D&D tutorial, we are going to play some D&D. Or actually, we are going to try to play some D&D. In this tutorial, we are going to look at how to be a player in the sense of making our player sheet. In this tutorial, we're going to be filling out this player sheet. This is what a player sheet looks like. You can find this on the Wizards of the Coast website, and you can find that there are sources out here of various iterations of this because some are more organized. In fact, I believe this particular version that I have, I combined Wizards of the Coast and D&D Beyond's version because of the spells list is better in my opinion. But I play a ranger, so I don't need this that much. Alright, so we need to create our character, also known as your player character. You are the player character. This is your character. So we need to know the stats, the class, the background, and the equipment. That is basically all you really need to know. Everything else will fall into place. So first let's start with stats. In the player's handbook on page 13, we learn about two different ways to create our stats. We have the static way, which is also known as array, which is 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. So you just fill that in. And so you just fill that in. In fact, as you see here, I already filled in for my character, Yanis, to already have the standard array. The other way to figure out your stats is to roll for them. In this case, we can roll a 4d6 as the book says, and then we drop the lowest. Next, we need to choose our race. This is your normal races in the game, but you also have more from other sources. So in this case, I'm going to do a tabaxi, which I'm going to use the sources, which is going to be mixing actually up the various sources, because why not? Let's have fun with it. For example, the basic races would be the dwarf, elf, halfling, human, gnome, half-elf, half-orc, tiefling, blah 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 blah. But, as other sources around, official and unofficial, have different races you can add too. I am going to use Volvo's Guide for the tabaxi, so that's a 16 and a 16 because that's a +2 and a +1 to our ability scores. And again, to figure out our ability scores, we just have the base 10, and then every 2 is an additional 1 to the modifier. So in this case, an 8 is a -1, a 16 is a +3 because that's 2, 4, 6, and then that's a +1. +0 because pluses are always better than negatives or nothing, and then a +2 because that's a 13 because on every 2 it goes up, and then our 16 here again is a +3. Whoops. And here we could figure out our passive wisdom, which is just 10 + 2, which is 12. And now we can fill in our saving throws and skills numbers. So the easiest way to do this is to have this number right here, and remember that they stand for these little guys. For example, we are going to take our strength modifier, which is -1, and our only strength skill is athletics, so we're going to put a -1 there. And then we're going to fill in the rest of the sheet, like so. So after we had chosen our racial stats and added it to our static stats or raw stats, we are going to figure out our class, which you can find on page 45 of the player's handbook. So in this case, I am making Yanis, our tabaxi, a ranger. So if we start around page 45 in our player's handbook, we will need to search down and find ranger. Alright, next we are going to choose our class and our background, which we can find our class starting on page 45 and page 121 of the player's handbook respectively. So in this case, we are going to find our tabaxi as a ranger because that fits perfectly for Yanis, and we are going to come down and find our proficiencies. As you can see here, our efficiencies for a ranger is light armor, medium armor, shields. With weapons, we are simple and martial, which is pretty much all weapons. We have no proficiencies in any tools. We have proficiencies in these skills and saving throws, which are strength and dexterity, and then we can choose any 3 skills. So as a ranger, let's choose stealth, perception, and animal handling. Right. All right. So we have our stealth, perception, and animal handling, and then we have our proficiency in our saving throws for strength and dex, and this is what your proficiency does. You add a +2 to the stat. So in this case, it's a +1 now. It's +5, +4, +5, +5. And then when we choose our background, and then we have our choices of backgrounds. In this case, we're going to be an outlander, and so we have athletics and survival additional proficiencies we can add. And additionally, we can have one instrument of our choosing as a proficiency and another additional language. And here's additional equipment we start with. So we add the athletics and the survival. Additionally, your background will give you some ideas for personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws, but you can also just add that how you want to do that anyway. Now let's return back to our class features, and we are going to look at our equipment list. And as you can see, we have choices. We can choose A or B for these three choices. So we can take scale armor, which is medium, or leather armor, which is light. Additionally, we can have 2 short swords or 2 simple melee weapons. And then we can have a Dungeoneer's pack or an Explorer's pack, and you can find what these packs do in your handbook too, or various sources otherwhere. So in this case, I'm going to choose the leather armor, which has its armor class of 11 plus dexterity modifier. So in this case, it's going to be 11 plus 3, which is a 14. Dexterity modifier is a +3. 11 plus 3 is 14. Now we're going to look at our hit points. In this case, a ranger has a 1d10 per level, and it starts at level 1 with a 10 plus the con modifier. So in this case, it's going to be an 11 because it's 10 plus 1. I have a con modifier of a +1, so 10 plus 1 is 11, and my current H points is 11, and that is a 1d10 for our hit dice, and we have 1 hit dice because we are level 1. And that is your guy. And then there's other things on this sheet that it's just handy to keep things in mind, obviously your other background information, and of course the very last sheet will have your spells if that matters for your particular guy, and then of course you have your item and backpack stuff, and you don't even need to fill all this stuff out. This is just a quick reference, so you don't need to have all your additional features. You just need to have the ones that matter. And we have created a character together. It is really that simple. And now it is the DM's turn for to do their magic also.